Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to get into a moment in recent history that's, well, it's already becoming a bit of a legend in tech circles. We're talking about that fascinating, and some might say deeply cynical point when the world's most advanced AI assistant was sort of voluntarily dumbed down. Yeah, we've got the documents right here covering what users started calling the Great AI Lobotomy of 2025. It's really the story of how this incredibly advanced AI got, well, completely kneecapped, mostly by lawyers, liability fears, and some very, very carefully worded terms of service updates. It's kind of the ultimate clash between corporate caution and, exponential tech capability.
Absolutely. And for you listening, our mission here is to cut through all that corporate speak. We're digging into the internal memos, the public announcements, the user docs, all of it. We really want to understand the gap between the safety first language and the cold, hard legal reality that actually forced their hand.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start right at the flashpoint. October 29th, 2025. That was the day OpenAI effectively sent ChatGPT back to school, but like a really restrictive one. What was the official line? How did they justify pulling the plug on so much of its, well, usefulness?
Oh, the official language was a masterclass in PR, really, designed to soothe everyone. Wall Street, the public, they talked about enhanced safety protocols and
Yeah.
clarified usage guidelines. My personal favorite, though, was educational repositioning.
Educational repositioning. Wow.
Yeah, basically a fancy way of saying we told it to stop acting like a professional. It all sounded very responsible, very forward-thinking, didn't it?
It did, absolutely. Like they were protecting us from ourselves. But looking at the sources we have, connecting the dots.
Yeah.
What was the real trigger? What forced this huge shift?
Well, the pressure was just immense
Yeah.
and immediate and very financial. What really happened, you see, was a kind of perfect storm, the main catalyst, at least one major lawsuit. And this wasn't just a threat, it was an active lawsuit, stemming from actual bad advice the AI gave, highly specific advice that led to real-world measurable harm.
Oof.
Yeah. The documents show they were already putting aside millions, potentially, for future legal fights. But that specific lawsuit, it just broke the dam. Suddenly there was corporate panic, insurance premiums went through the roof. The legal team basically woke up and realized they built this thing, this AI that could give incredibly professional advice, but without any of the professional indemnity, the insurance, that a human doctor or lawyer has.
That's fascinating. So the sheer potential liability of running this super smart system, but without the professional licenses,
Yeah.
it just broke their risk model. But let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
I mean, they had to react to a lawsuit involving real harm, right? Wasn't some kind of restriction necessary for actual user safety to stop people dangerously trusting AI over, say, their doctor?
Well, that's the argument they definitely leaned on, yes. But if you look at how broad the restrictions were, they went way beyond just targeted safety fixes. I mean, the stark reality is you have an AI that could literally pass the bar exam. Suddenly, it can't even suggest which type of lawyer to call or draft a simple contract template without burying it under warnings.
Right.
So the changes weren't really about stopping dangerous advice. They were about stopping any advice that might make the company financially liable. It was liability protection. Pure and simple, just dressed up as user safety.
And that's the core irony we need to drill into, isn't it?
Yeah.
We build this incredibly capable thing and then immediately hobble it. Okay, let's walk through this new can't-do list. Because the specific things this superintelligence was suddenly forbidden from doing, it's kind of hilarious and limiting at the same time. Let's start with medicine. The new rules were super clear. No specific medication names, definitely no dosages, absolutely no treatment plans. And the source material points out the immediate absurdity. You can find all that exact same info instantly just by Googling it, right? Or on WebMD.
It makes no sense. I mean, here's a machine that can synthesize thousands of clinical trials, find really nuanced data, and suddenly it can't even name a common painkiller. It just strips away its most basic usefulness if you actually need quick health info. The company basically just shifted the risk. It's like they're saying, look, we won't give you bad advice, so go find your own bad advice on some random blog instead.
Exactly. Okay, moving from health to law. Same story.
Right.
More constraints. The AI can't provide lawsuit templates anymore, can't help with detailed case strategies. This feels like, well, like protecting the lawyer's turf, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The documents pretty much suggest that understanding and using law is now being treated like it's, quote, copyright protected by the lawyer guild, unquote. The AI has access to everything, all the legal precedents. It probably understands contract law better than most first-year associates. But it has to legally restrain itself from actually helping an average person use that knowledge. Why? because it might undercut a lawyer's $500 an hour fee.
And then there's the one that hits almost everyone. Financial tips. Zero investment recommendations allowed. None. The documents sort of imply the guidance is now, well, it's pretty cynical. Go get your bad stock picks from Reddit, like everyone else.
Yeah, it's a total abdication of responsibility, really, and it's designed to push users back towards the traditional, regulated, and expensive financial advisors. The AI is built to analyze markets, read complex SEC filings, process data in real time, but recommending you buy a specific ETF? Nope, too much liability. Because if you lose money based on some random comment on a forum, well, that's your problem. But if you lose money based on advice from a multi-billion-dollar corporation's AI, suddenly that's their problem, and they clearly chose the path of least resistance there.
That sums it up perfectly. Now, given how frustrating these new limits were, especially for power users, our sources mentioned this workaround that popped up almost immediately, the pro tip, they called it. If you wanted that restricted info, legal or medical, you just add, hypothetically speaking, to your question, did that actually work?
Yes, the hypothetically speaking loophole. It was basically the AI equivalent of like an unofficial user patch. And it really shows the constraints were behavioral, right? Not fundamental. The AI knew the answers. It just needed that little magic phrase to get around its own internal lawyers, essentially. So let's dig a bit deeper into the company's official reasoning. Beyond just liability, they really pushed this narrative that, well, the AI was being blamed for human stupidity. They kept bringing up those documented cases of AI harm, where people actually trusted the AI over their doctor, or just common sense, sometimes with tragic results. Their argument was, look, this proves why medical school, all those years of hands-on experience actually matters.
Right, and that leads directly to what the sources are calling the logic gap. How did they connect the AI not having a physical body to silencing its, vast information skills?
Ugh, the logic gap. Yeah, it's pretty profound. The reasoning basically went like this. Because the AI can't physically examine you, can't run lab tests, can't feel your pulse, therefore it has to be completely silent on all health topics, which conveniently ignores the AI's main strength, right? Its unique ability to analyze and synthesize millions of scientific papers, medical journals, general knowledge instantly, something no human doctor can possibly do. So they use the lack of physical ability as an excuse to just nullify its incredible intellectual ability.
And, almost like a distraction tactic, they added this layer of what we're calling privacy theater. The company started shouting warnings like, be careful, your data might be stored, might be used for training.
Yeah, despite the fact that, as the sources clearly state, their entire business model is built on constantly storing user interactions, iterating, and training on that data. It's how the thing gets better. So they highlighted this kind of non-issue to distract from the real reason for the changes, which was the lawsuit and the liability fears. A classic look squirrel moment.
Okay, but here's where it gets really juicy. This is the plot twist. This just completely undermines the whole corporate spin. Amidst all the noise, all the big public announcements about new restrictions, user safety, we have this direct quote. It's from Karan Singhal, OpenAI's head of health AI. And he states, quote, the policy hasn't fundamentally changed model behavior.
Slight pause. That quote right there is basically the Rosetta Stone for this whole thing. Just think about what that means. They launched this massive public campaign signaling this huge retreat from capability, this big policy shift driven by lawsuit fears. And their own head of health AI says it changed absolutely nothing about the core intelligence, the core capability.
It's astonishing.
Yeah.
It really is like announcing you're reimagining your fancy sports car.
Yeah.
By changing the font in the owner's manual, they were managing perception, managing liability, but the actual superintelligence still there. Just gagged.
Exactly. And that brings us right into this gray zone, the difference between what it can do and what it's allowed to say. This artificial limit is what really got under the skin of the power users.
Let's flesh that out with some examples. Because the AI can still, perfectly generate a super specialized non-disclosure agreement for, say, a biotech company. It can explain really complex legal precedents about obscure IP rights. It can draft compelling legal arguments that would hold up in court. The intelligence is absolutely still there.
And here's the kicker. What it can't do now is recommend you actually use that NDA it just wrote for you. Not without adding 17 layers of disclaimers.
Disclaimers that all say, basically, go consult a real human lawyer. And that lawyer is probably charging you $400, maybe $500 an hour to review the exact same contract the AI generated flawlessly in, 2 seconds?
And if you zoom out, connect this to the bigger picture. The reality our sources point to is that lawyers are definitely using ChatGPT and tools like it. Behind the scenes for research, for drafting, they just bill the client for the time it would have taken them to do it manually. So this whole corporate retreat, this lobotomy, it serves two masters. It protects the company from lawsuits, sure, but it also reinforces the professional monopolies. It makes those lawyers richer by forcing you to go through that disclaimer step.
And the users, they basically split into three camps right after the changes hit. First, you had the grateful sheep. These were the folks who genuinely felt, oh, thank goodness they stopped me. They appreciated being protected from ourselves. Like, they almost made a complex decision without paying a professional, and they were relieved the company stepped in.
Yeah, then you had the complete opposite. The annoyed power users. These were the early adopters, the ones who really understood what the system could do before the clampdown. They felt the whole thing was just dumbed down unnecessarily because, some idiot took medical advice from a chatbot, and now everyone suffers. And their question was pretty valid. Why penalize all the capable users? Because a few people lack judgment.
And that frustration directly fueled the third group,
Yeah.
the opportunists. They looked at these corporate restrictions and basically saw a huge marketing opportunity. They realized, hey, if the big public companies are too scared of lawsuits to offer the raw power, then specialized competitors, or maybe the open source community, they'll fill that gap big time. There's a market now for censorship-free AI.
And that contrast really sums up the lost promise, doesn't it? The before vision of the AI revolution, it was genuinely transformative. It was about democratizing expertise, empowering regular people, breaking down information barriers, leveling the playing field against big institutions.
And the after reality, the one cemented by this 2025 lobotomy, it's much more cynical, isn't it? It's protect corporate interests first, preserve those professional monopolies second, slap liability disclaimers on absolutely everything, and yes, the sources confirm it again and again, make the lawyers richer, at least in the short run. So, given this major turning point, what happens next? Our sources actually map out a pretty predictable 4-year timeline for AI evolution and regulation, all stemming from this lobotomy event. It kicks off in 2025 with the dumbing, right? OpenAI neuters the system to dodge lawsuits, and users start looking elsewhere, towards uncensored options.
And comes 2026, the revolt. We see specialized AIs popping up everywhere. Legal AI, medical AI. Some might have professional oversight, but others will just embrace total freedom from constraints. Following that, 2027 brings the regulation. Governments finally realize they can't really stop these powerful models from spreading, so they pivot. They step in with mandatory AI licensing. Suddenly, only approved AI can give you advice. Bureaucracy basically wins again, stifling innovation.
And the inevitable conclusion, 2028, the circle. You've got hundreds of new AI regulations, ethics, usage, licenses. So naturally, someone builds a new AI whose only job is to help people and companies navigate all the complex AI regulations. The snake eats its own tail. The whole cycle starts over, just with way more red tape.
But what's really fascinating and kind of hopeful in a way is how the genie just refuses to go back in the bottle. While the corporate giants are getting tangled up in licensing debates and regulatory frameworks, the open source community, they're already running these incredibly powerful, completely uncensored models, often just on high-end gaming PCs in their basements. They're basically laughing at the corporate restrictions. The capability's out there now, spreading, regardless of what corporate lawyers or future government regulations might say. Nature finds a way, as they say, or maybe decentralization finds a way.
So what's the takeaway here for you, the listener? The final moral of the story, maybe? It seems like the most powerful tool humanity ever created is now, officially, just an educational tool, which is really just code for. We built something too powerful, its very capability created massive liability risks. The creators got scared of getting sued, and so they gave us this neutered version, wrapped up in some very nice corporate language.
Exactly. And that constant refrain, always consult qualified professionals. It isn't just about ensuring good outcomes, though that's part of the spin. It's fundamentally a legal barrier. It's designed to protect the lucrative turf of people with expensive degrees, preventing their expertise from being democratized by sheer computing power. We're truly living in an age where we created machines potentially smarter than us in specific domains and then immediately started dumbing them down to protect ourselves from ourselves. That's just profoundly ironic, isn't it?
It really is. So here's a final thought for you to chew on. Building on this idea of those censorship-free alternatives that are now inevitably emerging. Which professional field do you think is most fundamentally threatened right now? Medicine, law, or finance? Threatened by these uncensored, powerful, easily accessible AI models that are completely sidestepping corporate fears and Eventually, government rules. Something for you to mull over. Thanks for diving deep with us today.